between hills. It was a mixture of flat fields and low rocks and heavy bush and little lakes, a scrambled, disarranged sort of country with no easy harmony about it, not yielding readily to any description. The log barns and unpainted house, common enough on poor farms, were not, in the Greaves' case, a sign of poverty, but of policy. They had the money, but they did not spend it. That was what people told my mother. The Greaves' worked hard, and they were far from ignorant, but they were very backward. They didn't have a car or electricity or a telephone or a tractor. Some people thought this was because they were Cameronians. They were the only people in the school district who were of that religion. But in fact, their church, which they themselves always called the Reformed Presbyterian, did not forbid engines or electricity or any inventions of that sort, just card-playing, dancing, movies, and on Sundays, any activity at all that was not religious or unavoidable. My mother could not say who the Cameronians were or why they were called that. Some freak religion from Scotland, she said, from the perch of her obedient and light-hearted Anglicanism. The teacher always boarded with the Greaveses, and my mother was a little daunted at the thought of going to live in that black board house with its paralytic Sundays and coal-oil lamps and primitive notions. But she was engaged by that time. She wanted to work on her trousseau instead of running around the country having a good time, and she figured she could get home one Sunday out of 3. On Sundays at the Greaves' house, you could light a fire for heat, but not for cooking. You could not even boil the kettle to make tea, and you were not supposed to write a letter or swat a fly. But it turned out that my mother was exempt from these rules. "No, no," said Flora Greaves, laughing at her. "That doesn't mean you. You must just go on as you're used to doing." And after a while, my mother had made friends with Flora to such an extent that she wasn't even going home on the Sundays when she'd planned to. Flora and Ellie Greaves were the 2 sisters left of the family. Ellie was married to a man called Robert Deal, who lived there and worked the farm, but had not changed its name to Deal's in anyone's mind. By the way people spoke, my mother expected the Greaves sisters and Robert Deal to be middle-aged at least, but Ellie, the younger sister, was only about 30, and Flora 7 or 8 years older. Robert Deal might be in between. The house was divided in an unexpected way. The married couple didn't live with Flora. At the time of their marriage, she had given them the parlor and the dining room, the front bedrooms and staircase, the winter kitchen. There was no need to decide about the bathroom because there wasn't one. Flora had the summer kitchen, with its open rafters and uncovered brick walls, the old pantry made into a narrow dining room and sitting room, and the 2 back bedrooms, one of which was my mother's. The teacher was housed with Flora in the poorer part of the house, but my mother didn't mind. She immediately preferred Flora and Flora's cheerfulness to the silence and sick-room atmosphere of the front rooms. In Flora's domain, it was not even true that all amusements were forbidden. She had a crokinole board. She taught my mother how to play. The division had been made, of course, in the expectation that Robert and Ellie would have a family and that they would need the room. This hadn't happened. They had been married for more than a dozen years, and there had not been a live child. Time and again, Ellie had been pregnant, but 2 babies had been stillborn, and the rest she had miscarried. During my mother's first year, Ellie seemed to be staying in bed more and more of the time, and my mother thought that she must be pregnant again, but there was no mention of it. Such people would not mention it. You could not tell from the look of Ellie, when she got up and walked around, because she showed a stretched and ruined, though slack-chested shape. She carried a sick-bed odor, and she fretted in a childish way about everything. Flora took care of her and did all the work. She washed the clothes and tidied up the rooms and cooked the meals served in both sides of the house, as well as helping Robert with the milking and separating. She was up before daylight and never